We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together by Jordan Cook and Alan East. Jordan Cook was a sailor from Gloucestershire, England. He is a two-time Canadian Olympic sailor. He sails for the Royal Canadian Yacht Club. He was the son of Stephen Cook and Linda Cook. He had a great interest in writing stories too. This story is an excerpt from his voyage account, Schooner to the Southern Oceans. Jordan vowed to sail in his own ship and repeat Captain James Cook's final voyage 200 years later in 1976. The story is a first-person account of the narrator. It exhibits extraordinary and exemplary courage, grit, and skill by a family in the face of adversity. It's an inspiring tale of human endurance, selflessness, and optimistic fervor. The narrative describes how optimism, determination, and strong willpower raise our spirits and help us overcome any kind of a stressful situation. The first section opens on a cheerful note. In the first section, the narrator and his family are looking forward to fulfilling their lifelong aspiration of sailing across the world. He, along with his family, set sail on a world tour in a boat named Wavewalker. Jordan and Mary had spent all of their free time for the last 16 years in perfecting their seafaring skill. On their second day out of Cape Town, they faced strong winds and alarming waves as high as their mainmast. The crewmen could help them tackle any sort of rough sea in the southern Indian Ocean. Took on two crewmen, Larry Vigil and Herb Sigler from Cape Town. The initial period of their 3-year journey from the west coast of Africa to Cape Town proved to be quite pleasant. In July 1976, they began sailing from Plymouth, England. Their boat Wavewalker was a professionally built 23-meter and 30-ton wooden-hulled boat. The family comprises of the narrator, his wife Mary, his 6-year-old son Jonathan, and his daughter Suzanne, aged 7. By December 25, they managed to reach 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Despite the bad weather, the family celebrated Christmas on the boat. However, the weather worsened with the passing time. Section 2. This part of story describes the hazards faced by the voyagers. There is a shift in the narration from cheerful to intense. The voyagers find themselves in an extremely fatal and disastrous situation. They faced the first calamity on the 2nd of January. Huge and mighty waves started rising in the ocean. The winds were screaming and they were sailing with a small jib. They tried to slow down the boat and conducted trial life raft drill to prepare themselves for the worst possible situation. They wore oilskins to protect themselves from water, attached life jackets, and waited in apprehension of the approaching storm. The sea became very silent, indicating that the storm was about to strike. A very huge wave in the shape of a dark cloud approached them, and a sudden explosion. The narrator felt completely helpless. Unexpectedly, water fell over the ship with a strong force. His head His head hit the wheel and he was thrown out of the ship and started sinking under the waves. He accepted his approaching death as he began losing consciousness, also because he knew that his death was near and accepted that truth. The narrator's head popped out of the water due to the force of the waves. He saw Wave Walker to be on the verge of overturning when another huge wave turned it upright again. His life jacket got a jerk and was tightened. He grabbed the guardrails of the boat and sailed into the main boom of the boat. The waves that were pouring inside were so powerful that he got tossed around the deck like a rag doll. Like a rag doll is a simile here used to illustrate how powerless the narrator felt against the magnitude of the waves. His left ribs cracked, his teeth were broken, and his mouth was filled with blood. Somehow, he found the wheel lined up the stern for the next wave and was determined to face the wrath of the storm. He could not leave the wheel to examine the damaged parts. There was water all around, and the narrator was apprehensive that it had filled the lower part of the ship. Mary shouted that the decks were broken and they were sinking. He rushed outside to see Larry and Herb pumping water out frantically. A lot of things like clothes, crockery, and toys were floating noisily around because of excessive water. Struck with panic, he struggled through water to his children's cabin to check on them. They were sitting on the upper bunk of the bed. Sue had a big bump above her eyes, but she did not fuss about it and said that it hurt a bit. Though worried about her injury, he does not intend to attend to it, as his chief concern is to save the Wave Walker. The narrator made several calculations using a spare compass, made some adjustments, and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. He said that if they were lucky, they would see the island at about 5 p.m. Dejected, he went down to his bunk and fell asleep. It was around 6 p.m. when he woke up. He thought that they must have missed the island. Just then, John and Sue came to him and gave him a big hug because he was the best daddy in the world. The narrator was confused. Sue announced that the island was just in front of them. He rushed out to the deck and saw the most beautiful island in the world. It was Al Amsterdam, a piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation. When his feet touched land the next day, he thought of the cheerfulness and optimism of all the people on the boat, which made them pass through the worst stress.